you think that you're in an alternative universe? They're all so busy rewriting history. It's clownsville, isn't it? It absolutely is. They're all telling their truth and their version of it. And Matt Hancock, I've got absolutely no time for whatsoever. I mean, he's obviously never going to talk to me again because I called him, what was it, a pound shop milk tray man. Do you remember when he had the black turtleneck on? They got the huff, but I don't care. And yeah, I just find everything he says, I just think, nah. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult to take someone like that seriously. And this, of course, is a very, very serious subject.
Matt Hancock was there this week. He said a bunch of things. He hit out at Nicola Sturgeon for apparently announcing stuff during COVID earlier than she should have done. He said that lockdown should have happened earlier, and he told Boris Johnson this, but also forgot to put it in his diary for some reason. And he denied being a liar or overconfident, quite confidently, you might say. Lorraine, what did you reckon about all that?
Oh, it was just, don't you think that you're in an alternative universe? They're all so busy rewriting history. It's clownsville, isn't it? It absolutely is. They're all telling their truth and their version of it. And Matt Hancock, I've got absolutely no time for whatsoever. I mean, he's obviously never going to talk to me again because I called him, what was it, a pound shop milk tray man. Do you remember when he had the black turtleneck on? They got the huff, but I don't care. And yeah, I just find everything he says, I just think, nah. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult to take someone like that seriously. And this, of course, is a very, very serious subject. Interestingly, as we just heard on the news, Boris Johnson is apparently going to apologise. But there's always going to be a but, isn't there? He's going to apologise, but he's also going to say that he saved thousands of lives.
His point, Lorraine, is that he got the big calls right. And I don't know. I mean, are we sure that he didn't? Because I mean, it's a sort of horrible thing to talk about this in terms of numbers. But the death toll in Britain was much the same as of in equivalent countries. Admittedly, we got that kind of thing out the way rather sooner, which might not be a glowing success. Nonetheless, you look back in the round, we did not perform particularly worse than anywhere else, and so it's hard to say that the government we had messed up more than any other government.
Well, I think though, what happened afterwards, wasn't it? I mean, the lives lost, the whole thing about care homes. I mean, the whole care home thing is an absolute scandal. What was done to elderly people and the people that look after them, and knowing full well that they were sending people from hospital into care homes and knowing that they would get infected. And the long-term effects as well of things like lockdown. And we all obeyed because we're all good and we all wanted to do what's right for ourselves and for our families and for the community. Well, the rest of them weren't obeying the rules at all. And it worries me that the next time, because it's only a matter of time before there'll be one again, heaven forbid it's soon. I hope it's in, a few hundred years where we're much better organised and we know what we're doing. But, that was terrible and I don't know that people will actually obey again because we'll think, well, what's the point when they don't? They're having calling the caterpillar cake. And they're all seeing their friends and they're feeling each other up in rooms like Matt Hancock did with his girlfriend. So you sort of think, well, why should I not see the person I love? And why should I not see my mother that I'm waving to through the window of a care home? It was just not fair. And I don't think that they handled it particularly well. I really don't. When you look at it, you can see places where, and they didn't listen to the experts and they ploughed their own fields and they didn't really care. It was all about how, it was just, they were just lurching from headline to headline, crisis to crisis, and that's no way to organise themselves. And they should have had a plan in place anyway, and they didn't. And thank the Lord for science. Thank goodness for the scientists who, despite the fact that they were, they had no money, they were working with nothing virtually. Their funding was cut to the bone, and they still managed to come up with a vaccine. And thank God for them, or it would have been a hell of a lot worse. So I don't think it was the government that did things right. I think it was the scientists.
Alistair Barry, briefly, because we've got to cut away in a moment. But what do you think about the idea that look, our numbers were not worse than elsewhere, and if the government did perform worse than elsewhere, then that's just not what the situation we ended up with seems to reflect.
It's not a great thing to say the numbers were better or worse. The numbers were dreadful because lots of people died. The point is, as Lorraine says, I mean, I do feel slightly that she's being unfair on Milk Tray, comparing it to Matt Hancock, because I quite like Milk Tray. But I nonetheless think you look at what's happening in the inquiry, and they are all just being a kind of almost Dickensian caricature of themselves. You know, Gove is there, sort of like Uriah Heep getting round them. You've got Cummings as some sort of cartoon baddie who suddenly appears on Twitter every time, going, "They're lying, they're lying." and then you've got Matt Hancock. For God's sake, he's like that boy, the overly keen boy at school who doesn't realise he's got "kick me" stuck to the back of his jacket. And then Johnson's going to come out going, "Well, I did it." And I mean, Johnson is a national disgrace. There's no way around it. And there are going to be people listening who are going, "Don't, I will defend Johnson." He had to leave Parliament because he lied.
Yeah, but hang on, that's not relevant.
That's not what this is about.
That's not relevant to this inquiry. And yeah,
no, but it's all of a piece that he is now going to go to it with his customary boosterism. He's going to say, "I felt I was optimistic everything would work out well in the end," while having parties while people couldn't go to funerals.
You know what?
I don't want to be holier than thou, but I just think Johnson is an absolute disgrace. And the fact that they're pre-briefing Hancock's testimony is just, the man who chose Isabel Oakeshott as his biographer is not to be trusted on anything.
The judgment is questionable. That, what I sort of wish we were hearing in the COVID inquiry was just them saying, "You know what? This was terrifying. We'd never done anything like it. We screwed up. You would have done too."
Yeah.
That I'd sort of have some respect for. But you're right. There is some sort of back covering here. Back is not the right word there, but you know the word.